Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Joni Salzman.
I'm Alfred Ng.
Our 5G package continues to steam along. Today we've got a look at how 5G might change video. Joan, tell us about this scary utopian future that 5G might actually bring.
It's a scary utopia or happy dystopia.
It could be awesome. It could be amazing. It depends on your perspective. But yeah, tell us about this idea of 5G potentially customizing video on the fly.
Well, the idea is that 5G opens up the ability to have video that's much more interactive than we've ever really known before. And interactive video up until this point has been really clunky and hasn't been super popular. It's been interesting, but not very
It sort of
adept.
like stops and you have to push like a button to...
Most of it is kind of choose your own adventure style stuff where the storyline pauses and it's like, does the character go to the scary woods or go to the castle to fight the dragon? Stuff like that. 5G has the capacity, the capability of potentially creating videos where the plot line changes depending on how you react to watching it on your phone. It could have VR and AR could explode because of the capabilities of having that real-time exchange of information happening with your phone that 5G can handle that previous technologies couldn't.
That opens all kinds of crazy privacy concerns, right? Because if it's like constantly watching you for your reactions, what does that mean?
That's why you watch everything with a ski mask on, dude.
So,
or hockey mask.
We're in a time right now where we're not hyper aware, but we're more aware than we have in the past about how technology compromises our privacy in order to give us things that delight us,
right?
As some companies like to put it. So with this one, it's the same situation. You know, people that I talk to are like, one great thing is how with 5G we can use your cameras to be taking in all this visual information that will further advance the ability to have interactive television. But the downside is that your camera would be taking in all this visual information all around you all the time. So there's always, it's good. We're going to have to figure out a way to strike compromises that don't creep people out.
All right. Well, speaking of privacy, the EU is holding a big privacy conference in Brussels. Our own Katie Collins is out there. But Alfred, you got some of the details on what Apple and Facebook have said at this conference, right?
Yeah, so Tim Cook spoke at it earlier today, and he's actually the first tech CEO to speak about privacy and a U.S. data privacy law. This has been brewing for some time now, but usually through a privacy officer or some lawyer for, Amazon or Facebook or Google. So Tim Cook is the first tech CEO to actually comment about this, and he basically, criticizes the tech industry and talks about all the issues with privacy that we've already seen through the last year, companies using your data and things like that. And then he laid out basically Apple's plan or what Apple wants in a U.S. Privacy law, which includes the right to have your personal data minimized, the right to know what is being collected about you, the right to control, you can edit or delete what data a company has on you, and then security as a foundation for all that, making sure all of that is stored on a secure server. The interesting part is that he criticizes a website or, he criticizes tech companies out there. He doesn't name any of them, but, a lot of it is what Google and Facebook does. And if you look at Google's privacy framework, it's almost the exact same thing. Facebook didn't lay out their whole plan for what they want on U.S. data privacy law, but Mark Zuckerberg basically went out there and said, hey, you should trust us.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trust Mark. All right, lastly, in the time that we had, I just want to give a shout out to Maggie Reardon's exclusive interviews with FCC Chairman Ajit Pai and Commissioner Jessica Rosenworcel, who talk about the dilemma facing rural broadband and how they can agree and sometimes disagree on some of the solutions to fixing that problem. For full coverage, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Joni Salzman.
I'm Alfred Ng.
Thanks for listening. We didn't get to we barely touched the surface of the Zuckerberg or the Facebook stuff. Because it's sort of like this weird.
They barely touched the surface.
Well, that's true. I mean, they sent who did they send?
Okay, thanks everybody for joining us for the recording of the audio podcast of the 359. You can subscribe to that in the links down below. Until then, keep sending in your questions and comments so we can keep the conversation going. Let's go ahead and jump into the hot button issues. Tammy Thompson and Dean Jones say bye-bye privacy. Alex Mitchell says this is an episode of Black Mirror coming to life.
But guess what? The next Netflix interactive series is going to be Black Mirror.
Yeah, but it's not like facial recognition.
No,
based, like,
it's
you
not,
pick
but
what you
still.
want.
Well, it's because 5G
nice
isn't up yet. So
convergence.
just wait till 5G shows up.
I just wish that, like, with the advent of 5G on this, that have you ever watched a movie with somebody and like they're clearly on their phone the whole time?
Yeah.
Where it's like, yo, pay attention to this part. I hope that the facial recognition can notice that and be like, hey, this is an important part. You should be watching this.
The movie just stops and like the actors are
And
like,
all the
hey.
all the actors should just like
Hey,
stare
come
and
on.
blink at you.
It's basically
your
like a
phone
Broadway play, like when you have your phone out. Like
Right.
usually, like you don't do that because the actors are like right there. Now
Right.
they can do that. For,
Well, this would be more effective on phone, right? Like it wouldn't really work on a movie theater or on your TV. Like it's really watching mobile video. Like maybe the video on your phone stops and like pay attention or something.
that's crazy to me though.
Or
that,
maybe
like, they
after
would,
after you've binged 20 episodes, the actors sort of stopping like, hey, you should probably take a break.
hey, look, I see the dead
Right.
look in your eyes.
Yeah, you
so
should just take a quick nap before you finish the show up. I don't know.
can't wait till we can do that for our viewers as well. Hey, look, man, look, you look kind of tired. Maybe you shouldn't be
Yeah, you
watching the
should-
show right now, man.
Whatever, really. It's cool.
I mean, there's just so many ways that 5G. I mean, this is just one of the kind of like most head trippy ways that 5G.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
even. The story doesn't even touch on the fact that 5G's implications for driverless vehicles also has second wave effects for entertainment. You know, when you don't have to drive anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
What are you going to be doing in that car? You're going to be able to watch more movies, listen to more music, in addition to other things. But you know,
Eat so
media,
much hot dogs.
eat so many hot dogs, as well as read books. Maybe.
What if the books can also tell your facial recognition, like coming back at you, and they change like the next chapter based on how bored you are?
I mean, that's like
I mean, that-
technologically a lot easier.
Yeah, I feel like that's feasible now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually.
right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Probably wouldn't.
Everything is
But
awful.
it's not sexy because we don't talk about 5G. 5G part's not in it. So, Brian, what questions do we have?
Staying on the same vein, Life Improvement says they already know what you're watching. Wasn't there a story a while back about Netflix tweeting about someone who watched the same movie on repeat for 2 years straight or something like that?
Right,
I mean,
so-
didn't they volunteer that information though?
Yeah, so
Nah.
like what the difference is right now, think of the information that anybody has about what you're watching as sort of like what a second grader could understand. You know what I mean? Like it's like Netflix knows the title that you're watching and it knows when you start, it knows that you started it, it knows how long you watched it, when you dropped out, and if you continue to the next episode. That's really like all that they know. And so their algorithms and the profile, the taste profiles that they build for you are based on that. But what we're talking about here is that potentially Netflix or other video creators could know like what your eye color is, so they could change the protagonist's eye color to more closely match yours, so it makes them more relatable. They could know if you're super shocked by what just happened and give you more shocks like that in the future. It's knowing if you're in transit on a bus, and they could have the character be in transit on a bus to make it like. The mobile phone gives you so much more data about who you are, what you're doing, than anything that we have right now. And 5G is what unlocks the capability to harness that data and analyze it in real time, which is the crucial thing.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of low latency, right? This basically no lag time between network speeds. That would enable like things to be changed on the fly. Because right now, even with our current network, there'd be enough of a lag that it doesn't really work. It's not feasible at all. But with 5G, you can get that instantaneous reaction, which again is scary.
I'm not down to this. I don't like this. This is pandering at its best. Like, I don't tune into content for someone to essentially help me self-serve. I'm more into something like that. I've latched onto a story as escapism. I kind of want to farm this out to the chat. Do you really want them to frame content that's more like you? Because that'd be really boring. Like, if I'm watching a show and suddenly homeboy's slamming whiskey and downing 2 chili dogs just like I am, I'm changing the channel.
I love it when the algorithm just says like, "Hey, we figured that you hate yourself, so here's a character that also."
Well, I think it's. I mean, just from a more basic level, like this kind of data will let the content people know when you're into this stuff, when you're like based off of the phones, the cameras picking up your data. Like it'll actually know whether like what are the the hot moments in a show, and allow them to replicate that better.
So they do that
Yeah.
like more so like in real time then? Or?
Yeah, the idea is that they'd be able to replicate some of that in real time. I mean, they would have to have shot a lot of this stuff ahead of time.
Well,
right?
yeah,
Like,
a lot of
that's-
it is like another kind of scary prospect is as this is already happening as characters become increasingly computer generated. I mean, how many movies are there where like almost the entire cast or the entire cast is computer generated?
Oh yeah.
It makes live actors, be not a need to have for certain but let's like the caveat to all this is it's not like opera is still around. Like there's always going to be theater. There's
Right.
still going to be traditional storytelling via video. Like that's not going to be going away like ever.
Right.
It's the idea to be a little bit more optimistic about it. Assume that maybe they work out all the privacy stuff so that
Right.
it's not compromising in like a really offensive way. Just go with that.
Sure.
It does open up the possibility for having really cool experiences. Like Coachella could be like completely different. Burning Man could be totally different. If you go to live events, when you have in a way that like people that do live events haven't really even figured out what the possibilities are.
Very curious what this also means for like advertising.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
digital billboards out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
That
Gee, I
mean-
wonder if that was on their to-do list.
I mean, that already exists. Like one of the companies I talked to, Wirewax, they have technology where you can have interactive layers on video, and if like outside the window there's a billboard, you can digitally and seamlessly put a personalized ad on that billboard. So like that's
Oh.
already here.
Like in a video.
Yeah, in a video.
Really?
Yeah.
hey, this guy looks like he's sneezing while he's watching our
Yeah.
show.
Kleenex. Here we
That's
go.
like the
Kleenex
next wave
ad,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Clearly you have a cold. Your eyes are red, your
Yeah.
nose is red, and you're coughing.
Love it.
Love it. Love it, babe.
I'm just disturbed by the thought that Netflix and chill could quickly turn into an actual porno shoot.
Oh, come on, man.
Come on, tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
Well, because Netflix doesn't have porn, so
Yeah.
No, I think it's more
Yet.
that that the cameras would be pointing at us.
are there any questions from the audience?
Sure, let's move on. I like that it was brought up. Lost Legacy pointed out that Netflix already kind of experiments with personalized customization. That's kind of redundant, isn't it? And how they change their thumbnails to appeal to you,
Yeah.
like your actual interaction with the interface results in thumbnails that tend to appeal more to you. Like if you watch more of the episodes with actor B thumbnail shows up for you, something like that. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. They've already gone down this path pretty far, and there's no slowing them down yet. So for Craig and many, many, many others, myself included, let's give a quick rehash on what exactly 5G is and how that, in fact, plays into this outside of the fact that like it's powering the data, the cameras going back in real time. What exactly does 5G take on? What role does it take in this place?
I mean, 5G sort of acts as that bridge connecting you to those services that are offered by Netflix or Hulu. And, it's 5G. It stands for the fifth generation of cellular technology. It's supposed to be much, much faster, much, much more responsive, less lag time. And that connection speed is supposed to be able to enable a whole number of different technologies like self-driving cars or the prospect of sort of on-the-fly variable video. And so it's, for the most part, it's basically the bridge that allows these content makers to deliver customizable video to you on the fly.
So while we're still on the topic of 5G, Cosmoplex asks, are there any potential adverse health effects of millimeter wave 5G networks? Has there been research done?
So it's hard to say. There's been some. Part of the problem is there aren't a lot of millimeter wave deployments out there to really test the adverse effects. There have been a range of studies sort of looking at this sort of the general risk of having a cell signal so close to you. At least the official stance so far, like there isn't a heavy adverse effect, although you probably shouldn't stick your phone in your head too often, although we do that now a lot. But in terms of 5G, it's still kind of unclear. There isn't a lot of testing for that. I know I've talked to a bunch of researchers who say there aren't any more significant health risks to it, but it's still early days, so we can't really say for sure.
Yeah, I like that Life Improvement has jumped in and included that when you start getting to the far end of the spectrum, blue light, ultraviolet, that's when things start to get dangerous. But those are inching towards actual particle, but not quite. Obviously, it's still light.
Right.
But that's when the waves get their densest. So, yeah, I think we're fine. I mean, even Dash in the chat says, oh, I lost it. After 20 years now, amazed that people are still afraid of cellular technology. Everything out there has its own potential risk factor to a very small degree, but would it be so mass-produced if there was legitimate danger? I doubt anyone actually wants to endanger their audience base.
Well, I mean, the history is full of examples where people have done that.
Yeah,
but
I think it's less that anyone wants to purposely endanger. It's, we're kind of forging ahead on this technology, and we're looking at sort of the prospects that come from it, and not necessarily looking at the potential risks. That said, I mean, Wi-Fi runs on a fairly high frequency. Everyone seems comfortable with Wi-Fi, but like it's the research there isn't enough research, and there aren't enough deployments out there to really see how big a risk this is. So it's still kind of one of those to be determined things.
From APEC, when 5G becomes available, can phones change back to 4G or 3G? Are those going away?
Yes, for sure. I don't know about 3G. I think the carriers are starting to like kind of clean up that older network, but there's definitely going to be plenty of fallback to 4G. And I think that's point one a lot of the experts have told me is the 3G to 4G transition kind of sucked, because when you fell back to 3G, it was like falling back to dial-up. It was really a terrible experience. What they've been trying to do now is bulk up the LTE technology, so it's kind of on par with 5G. Not quite. Like the drop won't be as significant. Like you'll be going from 1 gig to like 400 or 300 megs per second, which I mean still is fast enough for you if you're just browsing the internet or streaming video. So yeah, there's definitely going to be plenty of 4G. There's a lot of leg room for 4G to go on for a while. So it's not like once 5G is upon us, they like shut everything else down.
All right, we're almost out of time, but I really love this question I want to take from Matthew. Who's going to build this type of content? Referring, of course, to this interactive, invasive Netflix is watching you content. Who has the servers and resources to spread this content?
Well, initially, it's going to be really expensive to make. So you're going to be seeing... you'll be seeing a lot of big companies make it. So that means like Netflix, Verizon is very interested in supporting people do it. But like I said, Wirewax is one of the companies that I talked to. They make a sort of like an Adobe Creative Suite for interactive video sort of model. And so they have stuff right now where you can, as a kind of like semi-professional, not gigantic, huge brand content creator, get access to some tools to insert interactivity into video that they're already making. So it's kind of like how VR content is right now. Like, it's something that's really expensive to make, and so unless you are a giant company or you're funded deeply, then it's hard to make really flashy stuff. But that's not to say that there aren't people that are scrappy and making stuff on their own, kind of like duct tape and springs and sprockets, putting it together.
I'm very curious if Apple would get into this or be interested in it, just because they certainly have the platform for it with all those, with like the IR cameras and like facial recognition based off like the iPhone 10.
Yeah.
And them trying to expand more into like making content. Like it's not Apple TV, but it's like, I forgot the name of it.
There's a streaming service coming next year.
Yeah.
Widely
But also
anticipated.
directly conflicts with all the privacy stuff they've been talking
All
about.
the privacy stuff
so.
we're talking about, yeah.
All right, we are at the end of the line. I just like this closing thought from Alex Mitchell that says, we need a personal information company that contains and controls all your personal info on websites and apps. That way you know what info is where, and you can be aware of what's out there instead of hiding. I thought that was kind of an interesting thought, and I'd like to see if anyone else thinks that's an interesting thought. Go ahead
So
and
instead
sound
of like you going to Google and finding out how much data Google has on you, then you have to go to Facebook and then like download your data there, and like because they all have their data center, like one that has everything, like your entire internet
What if
history.
that company gets hacked?
Yeah, that's kind of
that's the counter to
slippery
that.
slope there.
It's just putting all your eggs in one basket, but I'd be interested in the concept and see how it could actually flesh out if we want to go ahead and start dreaming in the chat.
That does something like this.
But then you would have to opt in for that. You would basically have to
Yeah.
sign in to that website from Google and Facebook and all this stuff. I mean,
Interesting thought, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we are out of time.
We are out of time.
Go ahead and take it away, Roger.
All right, the 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, the Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com. See y'all tomorrow. Bye.